And all our university students and all our professors have been taught that you cannot engineer general relativity at all. It's not engineerable. It's unthinkable. It's heresy to even mention that. Well, you know, somebody, a scientist, is supposed to be a heretic as far as fixed ideas.
True.
And so what we need is we need the universities to not be so staid, but to be a little bit more heretical as far as maybe you can engineer general relativity, because nobody's ever tried. And what we're saying is you can do it, and this is a way to do it, and you ought to try it. We're throwing down that challenge to the universities. We've told you exactly how to do it. We've told you exactly where to check to see that if you do that, you can violate all these conservation laws. Just read Misner, Wheeler, and Thorne, Gravitation, and they'll tell you you could if you could do that. Read that book to see what the assumptions are in the orthodox limited general relativity that's taught. Remove the limitations and see where you are, and do the electromagnetics like we've said. Do the experiments yourself. Don't take our word for anything. Do it yourself in your own labs and in your own universities. Then come back and tell us what results you got.
One other thing, Maurice, you got to keep in mind, you were talking about Washington and the politics and the politicians. The politicians are quite well aware of the fact, in the state of California and also on the national level, that the greatest profiteer of the sale of energy is the government. And if you start taking away the revenues that they get from selling energy sources, you really start panging the heart of a politician.
Well, that's our greatest problem, isn't it?
Sure is. But there's a way over it, and it'll be done.
Bill, can I interject one thing?
Yeah.
It's not to be hypocritical about the whole thing. Don't cry that you have not had the answers in front of you, and then 3 weeks later come back and say it can't be done. In other words, I am saying to all the people out there, I've heard you cry about where is the energy, and yet you turn out to be big hypocrites when it's right in front of you.
Seem to like to pay those big electric...
Well, I'm not condemning the whole nation. I am just condemning, you can squawk all you want about high paid utility bills, but you have the choice right now to do something about it. Now, you have that choice. Do something with the choice.
I'd be delighted to do something tomorrow.
Well, write letters.
I tell you that...
Get Joe Newman his patent, and you'll crack the door wide open.
A bill has been introduced to the House of Representatives by Congressman Bearden of Ohio.
Bearden?
And he is, the bill is to give Joe Newman his patent. Congress can grant patents if the patent office won't. They've done it on one other occasion. The bill also calls for an investigation of the patent office, which will not give the patent to Joe Newman, even though they know that his free energy device works.
The device works. His book is on the market. Anybody who reads that book should be able to make that device, or at least prove in principle to himself that this can be done.
Now, we don't know whether the fact that the commissioner of the patent office is a one-time oil executive has anything to do with it or not. That may just be a coincidence, but nevertheless, a congressional investigation has been called for in Congressman Bearden's bill, and a congressional patent given to Joe Newman, and I hope they do.
One more point that I'd like to make, Bill. You see, if funding does not occur for this type of project, what these industrialists may find out is every garage mechanic in the world will have one. Then they no longer need them. They don't have to borrow any money.
Wow.
Okay?
That would be their comeuppance,
Now,
wouldn't it?
What I am basically saying is these devices are so simple that, like I've said before, you can stand in front of a forest and not see the trees.
Well, the thinking that has to go into them is awfully complicated, but the actual device itself gets far simpler than anything we normally build, which is why we can't understand it.
That's right.
Well, now, these devices could be produced now?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Well, that would generate a lot of jobs, too, wouldn't it?
Of course it would. Everything that decreases sunk costs, things that are just burned up and thrown away and lost, you might say the money is burned up. Everything that quits burning up your money gives you more money to have yourself and raises your standard of living. And as everybody's standard goes up, it's a multiplying factor. It goes up more than just a linear amount. It goes up exponentially. And so what you would do is you would start freeing everybody economically. You really don't have freedom unless you're economically free.
No,
and most of
we're
us are
truly
not economically free.
Right. We're truly tied to the Far East, to the Middle
Well,
East.
it's even worse right now. For example, they're setting us up like turkeys right now.
I'm ashamed of our country.
The refinery is right now being exported back over to the countries in the Mideast. And what you're going to see the next time they tighten the screw on you for oil, we're not even going to have refineries enough to refine our own product. We're going to have to get the gasoline itself from abroad, not just the oil. So they're beginning to set us up for a real squeeze in the future. You can see it coming right down the line.
How can we be so short-sighted?
Sure. Well, it's deliberate. Refining in this country is now a depressed industry.
And what to add insult to injury, Marie, there is 6 times more oil in Alaska than there is in all of the Persian Gulf.
Oil is a glut on the world market, so obviously they raised the price.
It's disgraceful.
Of course it is.
But you can change that as a person. Everybody out there listening can change this as a person. It only requires the people. The people make up this freedom. If the people do not want freedom, then the people just sit back in their chair every night after work and they fall asleep.
And pay your bill every month.
That's right.
Pay the bill.
Then this requires letters?
You can start with the letters and the telephone calls to your congressmen and to your senators. One of them won't know what you're talking about. The other one might.
Bill, we really don't need their oil.
No, we don't.
We really don't need their oil.